At this point, this is total domination. Like, I've not had this much fun on Football Manager in a very long time. Real San Sebastian, Real Sociedad, they're actually one of the best teams in the league. I think they're actually first comfortably in the league right now, but they can't seem to get through our defense, and there's so much possession. Here's Morata banging 4-0. I started my second season with Atletico Madrid playing a balanced low block 4-4-2, and to be honest, I got bored. We never really imposed ourselves on teams, and even though we're playing against some of the other teams that were mid-table like Almeria and Villarreal, Valladolid, we ended up playing 1-1 and 2-2, and then the one that really broke it for me was Valladolid and LG. At this point, we only lost 2 games all season. We still lost only 2 games all season, and these are the 2 games that we lost. Valladolid and LG. At that point, I just strapped out the 4-4-2 tactic completely, threw it out the window, and then started off with a new system that was slightly more aggressive and had an emphasis on dominating all of the possession. So by the end of this video, you should have an idea of how to transform a team that is not very comfortable being in possession to a team that is very aggressive and dominant in possession. Now, stats-wise, we didn't dominate most of the key areas that I wanted us to dominate, so I went on to make that change to the tactic completely. Looking at the fewest conceded, we've conceded 15 goals in the league. That's a lot. And Real Madrid have only conceded 7. And the team that is dominating La Liga right now in my second season is Real San Sebastian. That's Real Sociedad. You can see that they have the most clean sheets in 9. They have the best pass completion. They have the best possession. And we're in there in 7th place with 50% possession. We were down at 45% possession, and it was terrible really, so I had to make the changes, and we've somehow managed to get it up to 50. And as the season continues, we'll probably get higher numbers in possession. We're up there with the fewest shots against, so it's kind of helping to actually control games and stop the teams from getting chances against us. Looking at the most points per game, we're in 5th place, and it could obviously get better as we continue to go on in the season. Now, speaking of Real San Sebastian having the most clean sheets for 9, you can see in the schedule that recently they were the last team that we played against, and then we actually slapped them like 4-1 in an away game. So it shows that everything is kind of working fine. And prior to beating Real San Sebastian, we went on to beat Man City 2-1, and then we had a narrow game against Real Madrid. We could have won it, but in the second half, Benzema somehow found a way to get one equalizer, and then we kind of stayed that way, but we controlled most of the match against Real Madrid. We beat Barcelona as well, Monaco, Sevilla and Cadiz, so everything started going well. And even after the Monaco game, and immediately after Elche with the Monaco game that we went on to play, it was kind of when everything was starting to gel. And Granada was one that I didn't really enjoy, but it was tough, and I was tempted to make changes, but I didn't, and I continued going on like that. So we do have Bayer Leverkusen and Valencia and Rayo Vallecano coming up in the season, and I'm looking forward to playing against those teams. In the Champions League, like I mentioned, we're currently sitting in 1st place in our league. We've managed to draw just the 1 game against Man City, a goalless draw, and I think that was the first meeting before we went on to beat Man City by 2-1 in the second return game, and then we're still unbeaten in the Champions League. Now, squad wise, I do have Jan Oblak still in goal for me, but I made one key signing that kind of transformed my season. I did send out a tweet about this signing because this is like my most expensive signing in Football Manager 2023. I did go on to bring Josko Vardiol from RB Leipzig before he went on to join City. I have the database, or when I had this save, at the point of having this save, Vardiol was still in Leipzig, so this is my second season like I mentioned, and I was able to sign Vardiol for like 34.5 million. That was probably 92% of my budget for Vardiol, but he's been immense in the way we've been playing throughout the season, and it's quite good. So looking at the tactic that I go on to play, and it's right here, it's a 3-5-2 system, 4 in defensive midfield, and then I have 2 attacking midfield players, and then 1 pressing forward on attack. And you can see the Vardiol position here. I'm going to clear everybody so you can have a clear view of what we're working with. And then in the ball playing defender duty on defend here in central, you do have Josko Vardiol playing this role, and then beside him is Jimenez. Jimenez goes on to play as a white in the back on defend. Often I use the ball playing defender on stopper duty for this role. I think I have that as an alternative. Okay, this is the 3 system. And then on the left hand side, we do have Hermoso playing as the white centre back on support. And I've forced Thomas Lemar to play as a complete wing back on attack duty on the left hand side. And then I have Nahuel Molina playing as the right complete wing back on attack duty. In central midfield, it's quite tricky because the players I'm using are not traditional defensive midfielders. Let me just do a quick pick so everybody can come in. And yeah, this is what we're working with. So we do have Koke sometimes playing this role, but Pablo Barrios is here as well. Kondogbia for some reason has been very, very good, so I've been playing him as the segundo volante in this role. And then of course Memphis and Antoine Griezmann. Memphis often plays as the central striker, and then Griezmann as the attacking midfielder on support duty. If I could just find Griezmann right now. Yeah, here he is, Antoine Griezmann playing as the attacking midfielder on support, and then of course João Felix. I had João Felix come back from Chelsea as at the time of starting, as at the second season this loan at Chelsea was complete, so he came back to Atletico Madrid, and then he's playing as a shadow striker on attack duty. The team instructions where everything really kicked off for me. Out of possession, we were playing with a low block before. I can show you here in the 4-4-2 system. It's a low block with a low defensive line, but that was useful in not allowing us concede, even though we still ended up conceding stupid goals. So I went for a high defensive line and then a high press with a much more often trigger press. So I wanted my Atletico Madrid team to be as aggressive as possible high up the pitch, and then I went on to add the get stuck in instruction. Often I don't used to include this, but this time, since it's Atletico Madrid, I want my team to be rough, so we went on to include that get stuck in instruction. And then when we're playing in transition, all 3 instructions are selected for the counter press and then the counter, of course, to try and stop the opposition from getting the ball into our own defense and hitting us on the counter attack. That's why the counter press is selected. As for counter, is to try and hit the opposition on the break the moment we have possession of the ball. Since we're Atletico Madrid, we're kind of better than most of the teams in La Liga, and the way we were playing before wasn't very useful. So I noticed that these instructions kind of helped us. And in possession, aside from everything that I normally believe in, I have a lot of narrow players, but I'm using a very wide attacking width. That's because most of my players are kind of narrow, so we're going to expect to try and stretch the pitch somehow. We have complete wing backs on attack duty, and then João Felix is going to also have to lean into the left hand and the right hand side as well, trying to stretch the pitch and create that space for the central players like Memphis Depay or Alvaro Morata that normally play as the pressing forward on attack duty in this sense. For the approach play, we do play out of defense, and then we have a pass it shorter instruction selected with a slightly higher passing directness because I do want the team to be quick. As opposed to the previous tactic where we use a disciplined system, we're now playing expressive and expansive football, and then of course walking the ball into the box. And funny enough, against everything I believe in, I kept my mentality on positive most of the time. Even when I'm playing against Manchester City or Real Madrid or Barcelona, I didn't go to a balanced or cautious mentality for the start of the game. It was positive, and then towards the ending part of the game when we have our goal and everything seems to be calm and I'm leading 1-0 or 2-0, I then go to a cautious mentality and try to see the game out, and it sort of worked out for me, to be honest. It's still a long way to go in this season, but I'm happy I've kind of found a way to get Atletico Madrid to play possession-based aggressive football. And I'm enjoying Football Manager again, because at some point with the 4-4-2 it was really boring and I didn't really know how to impose my team on other teams that we're playing against, and it was really too easy for them to play against us, so I needed to make my team a lot more difficult to play against, and this switch was quite good. So based on what I've just told you, you can try to apply this into your system in case you want to create a possession-based style of play that is aggressive and you have a team that perhaps you've been struggling to try to get them to play possession-based style of play. Try to apply some of these tips to like use a slightly shorter passing, and if you're a dominant side as well like Atletico Madrid, it could help you to also play with a slightly higher tempo and also play out of defense and then push on the press. Try to aggressively win the ball back as often as possible, because if your team is better, you should probably be able to impose yourself on the opposition, so don't be afraid to do that. I noticed this year giving the opposition the initiative and try to ask them to come on to you. Sometimes it could work. I've seen it work. I've done it before that it works, but often the AI is quite good at coming onto you and pressing your team and then trying to create chances. So if you don't stop them early, you'll find a way to score you and you will not enjoy that. So let me know if you have any questions about this tactic or any other tactic in particular. I'll be back with more Football Manager videos like this. If you did enjoy this one, remember to leave a like on it. I'll see you in the next video.